And then they had the audacity, like country.
Yeah,
Okay. That was awesome.
That's
The country.
What country?
They played country music.
It was a line dance, that's why.
I know. I didn't know what they said.
Cha-cha slide.
No. I didn't hear none of
That's
a country No, after they announced King Prom King and all that, they played country. That's where they are. It was so bad. You can think of better songs than whatever the heck that was. I was about to hey, shut the freak up. And then they said, like, I don't know why they said that. Oh, they kept leaving out everybody just fighting, but they was I mean, I'm saying what you had
All right, so today, I know our schedule's not on the board yet, but today or this week, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go over discriminant and we're gonna go over the next set of notes. Just because tomorrow, some of y'all are gonna be out for the SAT. So that way you just have to catch up on practice. We'll have practice on Wednesday, a test review on Thursday, and then your test on the second half of this unit on Friday. So I am gonna stick to my word that what we did before spring break, like the completing the square, that process will not be on your test on Friday. However, simplifying radicals will be, because we're gonna keep on simplifying radicals. However, there might be a completing the square as a bonus question or two on the test. So if you would like to get bonus points on your test and get a higher grade, then those might be good. Those might be good to look over. If you did not finish your Delta Math from Friday, that is open until this Friday, but then it closes this Friday. I will have RTI all week this week, I believe. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, if you need it. Friday I have duty, so I will not be in here though. So just be mindful of that. All right, so the first thing that we're going to take a look at is something called the discriminant. So the discriminant is going to be this formula right here. So discriminant, so D equals B squared minus 4 times A times C. So when you're looking for the discriminant, you are going to have your equation in standard form. So remember standard form, we'll take a look at what that is in a second. But when you get a discriminant and you get an answer for your D, you have 3 possible solutions when it comes to your roots and what type they are. So if your discriminant is going to be greater than 0, so that means that your D is going to be positive. All right, so if your discriminant is greater than 0, you will have 2 real roots. Okay, so what that looks like on a graph is if I were to draw it on a graph, it crosses the x-axis in 2 spots. One there and one here. All right, so that's your positive. That's the one that opens up. You could also have one that opens down. So these would be your examples of when you have a discriminant that's greater than 0 and you have 2 real roots. You know what they are. When your discriminant equals 0, you will have 1 real root. All right. So what that's going to look like is if you have it on a graph, your vertex touches the x-axis and you only have 1 intercept on the x-axis. All right, so you can have one there, or if you drew it this way, oops, that's not right. Okay, you can have one there. So it only touches the x-axis in one spot. If your discriminant is less than 0, so that means it's going to be a negative, bless you. So that means it's going to be a negative number. You're going to have 2 imaginary roots. All right. So remember, when we have imaginary, that means there's an I in our answer. So that means it's going to be either hovering above or below the x-axis, but it does not touch the x-axis. So we can have a little parabola up there. It can cross the y-axis perfectly fine like that one, but it still doesn't go anywhere near the x-axis. All right, so you could have a positive discriminant, a negative, or it can equal 0. All right, standard form. Standard form is going to go back to actually our first section of notes with this, but that's when we had ax squared plus bx plus c. All right. So when you have it in standard form, that's where these variables in your formula is going to come from, those letters. Your b is your linear, your a is your x squared term, and then your c is going to be that constant. And you just plug it in and you get a number. Now, the important thing is when you have the equation, you have to make sure it is in standard form. So your x squared should come first, followed by your x. Then your last thing is going to be your c. All right. So when we try to find the discriminant, we want it to equal 0. So the first one, it is already equal to 0 for us. So we don't need to do anything for that one. I'm going to just write your formula down here again so we can look at it. So with our discriminant formula, is my number 1 in standard form already? Yes, everything is on one side of the equal sign. Okay, so I can go ahead and identify my A, my B, and my C. A, B, and C can only be numbers, just like they were before. So an A is not going to be an x squared. It's going to be a what? A 1. All right. Our B is going to be what? -5, because of that symbol out front. And then our C is a -14. So we plug in those corresponding numbers into the formula right here. So for our discriminant, what was our B again? -5. And when I plug in numbers, I always use what? Parentheses. Okay. So instead of just a -5 squared, I have parentheses -5 squared. And then I have the -4, because that comes straight from the formula. And then what's our A? 1. Okay. So our A, B, and C are always numbers. What's our C? -14. All right, plug in this right-hand side into your calculator. Parentheses -5 squared -4, not -4, -4 times 1 times -14. Confirmation on that? I need everybody to plug that into their calculator so they know they're getting the right answer and they know how to do it. Anybody getting a different answer? All right. So now based off of our 3 different values that we can have for the discriminant, what kind of solutions am I going to expect? Okay, D is a positive, so discriminant's a positive. What does the middle say? Two real roots. Okay. What's another word for roots? Zeros, I heard. I heard solutions. X does not count. X intercept counts. All right, so remember roots, zeros, solutions, x-intercepts all mean the same thing. So if you were to say two real solutions, that's fine. If you were to say two real x-intercepts, that's fine. Those all mean the same thing. Two real zeros, that's fine. All right, let's do number 2. Is number 2 in standard form? No. What do I need to move over? The 10x. How do I move it over? I add the 10x. Can I combine the 10x with either of the terms on the left? No. So I'm going to move it onto the side here just so I don't get confused and try to combine it with something I can't. Okay. An x squared is different than an x. All right. So where should this middle term go? First, in the middle, or at the end? It should go in the middle. So we're going to rewrite the x squared from the beginning, move down that 10x, and then add that 22. Okay, we want to make sure we're in standard form, so when we figure out that ABC, we don't get tripped up. All right, so the discriminant equals, what is our B? 10, not an X. Minus 4, what's our A? And our C. All right, let's figure out what this discriminant equals. Go ahead and type in that right-hand side. Hold off on your answer first. Let's make sure everybody knows how to do it.
No, it's one. It's 16. It's 44. Yeah.
All right, Mackenzie, what'd you get? 12. Anybody else get anything different? We all got 12.
You got 44. I was joking.
Show you where Jay.
So Jay, what kind of solutions do we have here? Two real solutions. Solving quadratics using the quadratic formula. So, with solving quadratics, we have done factoring, which was from last unit. We have completed the square. We have solved by square roots. And now we have quadratic formula. Now, out of all of the ways that you have learned how to solve a quadratic, this one will work every single time. You cannot factor everything, because what if you have decimals as your answer? You cannot square root everything using the square root method, and you cannot complete the square every single time. All right. So solving by quadratic formula is the way to go if you don't know which method to use, or if the directions don't tell you which method to use. You need to memorize this formula. So how your test is going to go is the first thing on your test on Friday would be for you to write down this formula. Once everybody writes it down, I will come by and check your formula. And I will either give you a check mark in my pen or an X with my pen. Once I check through everybody's formula, then I will actually write the formula on the board. Because if you can't remember the formula, that's one thing, but if you know how to apply it and actually use it, that's honestly better, because you can always look up this formula if you really needed it later on. But actually using it and applying it is when that's important. All right. What do you notice about your discriminant? Your discriminant formula and the quadratic formula?
There's a lot of stuff.
You got time to-
Yeah.
What is your discriminant formula?
B equals B squared minus 4AA.
So b squared minus 4ac. What do you notice about your quadratic formula in that?
It's a negative.
It is in it. It is in the square root. Okay,
People taking my credit.
so your discriminant, you do not need to remember, because if you remember your quadratic formula and you know where your discriminant formula is in here, then you don't need to memorize both as separate entities. All right, so you already know how to find what's underneath your square root. Okay, you just have a little bit more. So negative b plus or minus, that's where you get your two answers, the square root of your discriminant, and then you just divide everything by 2a, not just the square root. A lot of people divide just the square root by 2a, but it is also that negative b out front. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at some examples. Maybe. Oh, Lord. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at A, and let's go ahead and look at it plugging into the formula. Now, as you can see from your formula, right above your formula, we also need to be in standard form to do this. So if you're in standard form to find your discriminant already, then you should be good to go with your quadratic formula. So what is our A here? 9. What's our B? And what is our C? Okay. So you have your A, B, and C. So now let's go ahead and plug this into the corresponding pieces up top. So we have a negative, okay? When I plug in, I always use what? Parentheses. So that negative is part of the formula. So that's outside of the parentheses. What I'm plugging in is going to be that 6 and that, oh, that's not squared. Wrong part. Okay, so minus negative 6 plus or minus the square root. Our B is 6, and I put that in parentheses, minus 4, and that 4 is part of the formula, so that does not need to be in parentheses. Our A is 9, and our C is 1. And then all of this is divided by 2 times A, which is 2 times 9. All right. Now, do not plug in everything all at once, because if you have an imaginary number, you are going to get an error. If your final answer ends up being decimals, I don't want decimals, okay? We are going to leave them in fraction form. So the first thing you should do is plug in your discriminant, not with the square root, but what is underneath the square root only. Not what's in the square root, but what's underneath the square root only. All right. So you should only have 6 squared minus 4 times 9 times 1 in your calculator. No square root. Make sure you have a minus 4, Maya, and not a negative 4. Huh?
got zero.
So what do you know? Plus minus.
I got zero.
I don't know about that one.
I got zero. You got zero plus one.
So that makes sense.
What did you guys get underneath the square root as your discriminant? What?
Zero.
All right, your discriminant is equal to 0. What's the square root of 0? It is 0. All right. Do I have any square roots left?
Take the 6 out of the parentheses.
Yeah, because I went ahead and distributed that negative to the 6
Okay. Gotcha.
when I went ahead and simplified. All right. So is there any square roots left?
No.
Are there any i's?
Yeah. Wait, no.
There's no i's. There's no imaginary, right? Now, let me ask you this. -6 plus 0. What is that?
-6.
What is -6 minus 0?
-6.
-6. So adding and subtracting that 0 from -6 doesn't do anything. So that just leaves me with -6 over 18.
3.
No,
Wait. Oh, -3.
no. So it is a -1/3.
It's 6.
Because it's 6 divided by 3.
Duh.
I'm sorry, 6 divided by 18.
I thought we 1/3.
Now, do we see a plus minus anywhere in this final answer? No, so it should start to make sense now as to how we have one real root because we have only one real answer, -1/3. Okay, our discriminant was equal to 0. So because of this number right here, because of that number underneath the square root, that 0 is what our discriminant equals. So from here, our discriminant equals 0. Therefore, we have one real root, which is the -1/3. So we have an x-intercept at x equals -1/3, which is -0.333 forever.
I'm gonna do the next one. My notes are falling.
This is such a funny show.
Questions on part A?
See, that's what you're lying.
I'm not.
So,
SpongeBob is the goat.
with all this, why would we
It is.
If you already have what? You're finding what your x-intercepts are.
Yeah.
By you finding your discriminant, you didn't figure out what your x-intercepts are. You just figured out how many roots and what kind of roots you have. So from your discriminant, you're telling me if you have one answer, 2 real answers, or 2 imaginary answers. That's all the discriminant tells you. So it kind of gives you an idea of what your graph's going to look like, but you don't know the actual answers yet.
So it's telling you that you're gonna cross the x.
And in this case, we're not going to really cross it. It's just going to touch it like in this example here. It's going to look like one of these here.
Are we gonna have to graph that like ever?
Not really. All right, let's move on to B. What's our problem with B when I want to start off with it? 4 is on the other side, so we got to subtract the 4 to the other side. So when we do that, we can go ahead and turn this into a 9x squared plus 6x minus 4 equals 0. All right, so now let's go ahead and identify A, B, and C. What's our A? What's our B? And what's our C? A -4. It was just to show you the three different kind of solutions. Yeah, not all of them are gonna have a 9x squared and a 6x. All right, so when I plug this into the formula, okay, we have a negative. What is our B again? 6 plus or minus the square root. Our B is, well, our B is a 6. Squared minus 4 times our A, which is 9, times our C, which is a -4, all divided by 2 times 9. Yes, in all three of these problems, you're gonna have the 9 and the 6 as your A and your B, but your C is gonna change just to show you the difference between the three types of solutions you can have. Now, again, go ahead and plug in your discriminant. Go ahead and plug this part in right here in your calculator without that square root.
I do.
What is it?
It's 180.
180? Square root. You're such an amateur. Such an amateur. Such an amateur. Thanks for the answer, Bo. No, I'm in a group chat. This dude keep calling me Bo. Like, what? This dude just keep calling me Bo like he Wolverine.
Listen, freaking Jay keeps saying we should do a Mortal Kombat theme prom next year.
Yeah, that's not happening. We already have the same for prom next year.
Thank you. Thank you.
You won't give me inside detail? I'll forget next year. I know it's just a little. Please. My favorite student in this class.
All right, what do we get as our discriminant?
180.
180.
Such amateur. Wait.
Anybody get anything different?
No.
Sorry night. Sorry night.
Sorry, no.
Star.
It's pretty well set up. I'm not gonna lie.
Huh?
It's pretty well set up.
Yeah, but Van Gogh.
Van Gogh.
Yeah, my favorite art star.
It was inspired by the Van Gogh exhibit that they had up in Charlotte. All right, everybody got 180. So this means that what kind of solutions are we supposed to have? 2 real solutions. We should have 2 real answers at the end, meaning there's no i's still, but we have 2 real answers. Now, when we take care of the square root of 180, can we actually type that in our calculator and get a whole number?
No.
No, we get a decimal. So what do we have to do with the square root of 180?
You gotta do the thing.
You gotta find the thing.
We gotta find the thing.
Factor.
Did you do the line?
Not factor exactly.
It's the line that-
But we gotta figure out what's the biggest perfect square that goes into 180.
Let me say it. 6 square root 5.
That's the final answer. I need
20 and 9. Yeah, 20 and 9.
20. 9 is not your biggest perfect square that goes into it.
Oh my God.
36 times what? All right. 36 is your biggest perfect square that goes into 180. And then what is the square root of 36? What's the square root of 5? There is none, so we leave it alone. So we put them together. 6 square root of 5. All right. So the 6 square root of 5 is now going to replace the entire square root of 180. So we'll have x equals -6 plus or minus 6 square root of 5 divided by 18.
Why did you say so?
It was the board.
It's such a, it's
It looks like a B. I know. All right.
But why would it look like a? I can't. Wait, how does that work?
Great question.
My father's like-
Sometimes when I read his papers, I think they're true.
Has he ever got something wrong with it?
All right, can you get to this part? Questions up until this part. We're not done. No questions up until this part. All right, square root of 5 stays 11. You can't do anything with that. However, we can simplify the 6s with the 18s. All right, so you can do two separate things. If this helps you, you can do that. You can break this apart and do -6 over 18 plus or minus 6 over square root of 5 divided by 18 and actually divide out. So 6 over 18 is -6 over 18 is going to give us a -1 over 3 plus or minus square root of 5 over 3. Because the 6 over 18 goes into a 1 over 3. Or you can put them together because our denominators here are the same and you're dividing everything out by the same. You could have just left it as -1 plus or minus the square root of 5 over 3. All right, so we have two answers here. We have -1 plus square root of 5 divided by 3. And then we have -1 minus square root of 5 divided by 3. So you have your two real roots here. There's no i's involved, so there's no imaginary. This answer just looks a little bit messier than what we originally had because of that square root. But you have your two real roots here.
I don't understand. Where did that one from?
I divided the -6 by 18.
All right, that's, okay. Oh, okay. So you don't have to do nothing with the other 6?
This one on the right, I did, because I divided 6.
With the second one.
I don't know, you said 6 and 18.
No, I'm talking about the one at the bottom, the chest of the square, yeah.
I divided the negative, I did the exact, this is the exact same thing as that. I just put them together because they have the actual same denominator. Any other questions on me? We got one more. All right. C is already in standard form. So our A is what? What's our B? And our C. All right. So we plug it into the formula. -6 plus or minus square root 6 squared minus 4 times 9 times 5 divided by 2 times 9. All right, again, go ahead and plug in what your discriminant is. What's underneath that square root?
What is the answer for? So for number, letter B, the answer, not the answer, but the B equals.
Is 180.
No, it's okay. So that's 2 real roots. Yeah.
All right, what do we got as our discriminant in this one?
-144. Yes.
Is that not what y'all got?
Yeah.
We're good. All right, now negative 144 gives us an error when you put that in the square root of negative 144 gives us an error when you put it in the calculator. But the positive version of 144 gives us what? 12. So because there's a negative in our answer, what do I need in my negative in my discriminant? What do I need in my answer? The I. All right. So for those of us who need this broken down, we can break it down as the square root of negative 1 and 144. All right, this becomes an I, this becomes a 12, so this becomes a 12I. All right, and that's going to replace the entire square root of negative 44. So we have x equals negative 6 plus or minus 12I equals 18. So now let's go ahead and divide out. What can go into 6, 12, and 18? The biggest number.
2.
So 2, 3, and 6 all go in, but 6 is your biggest number. So what is negative 6 divided by 6? Negative 1. What is a 12 divided by 6? And 18 divided by 6. That's your final answer. All right. And again, because our discriminant was what? Negative 144. So what kind of roots are we going to have? Two roots. If it's a negative. 2 imaginary. What do I have in my answer in this one that I didn't have in my previous one? The negative in the discriminant. But in the final answer, what do you see? An I. I stands for imaginary. All right, so you have negative 1 plus 2I divided by 3. Then you have negative 1 minus 2I divided by 3. And that is your second solution. All right. I know that the assignment is, actually, I don't think I connected it. I am going to connect your assignment for tomorrow already. If you choose to do it tomorrow, that's fine. But some of y'all have the SAT.
How long is that last?
Takes you first and second block, and probably half a lunch.
Oh yeah, they're gonna tell you you have an hour lunch. No, you got like a 30 to 20 minute lunch.
It's for me, but it's, I didn't get up.
All right, your assignment is connected.
So like what we did, so the work, they said we had an hour lunch. We had a 10-minute lunch.
Yeah, we ain't getting no dang hour lunch. We gotta just try about 20
I'm
minutes.
tired of being odd.
That was a scam.
I'm literally. Yeah, bro. You
Jay, you better watch out. You got the snitch jacket on, bro. Sure. Yeah, sure. Okay, you got that on, Jay?
don't care if you're dog water. Max Pete, were you here on this day?
So can I reset this?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
There's a video now. Like, one when I just like dropped it, I know where
What happened to the baby?
Only allowed not to be able to baby. She remember that I just like.
When you're there, you're.
The dude you shot a wall.
No, I don't
That
know.
was, yeah. I mean, it happened.
Hey, the PR team on point.
No, I need to see.
Is it on point right now?
No,
Or is PR team struggling right now? So what?
PR team is struggling right now.
He ain't in jail, is he?
No, I said, but A$AP Rocky was.
I know. Okay, we'll get it.
Yeah, A$AP Rocky.
But he got out. Did Joe Biden pardon him?
Rihanna got him out.
Huh?
Rihanna had to get him out.
Oh, Rihanna. That's what she got cheated on. Wait, I was
Can't
fake.
believe everything
That was
you say
fake.
on the internet.
That's fake. Dang.
I was about to say.
Jay, be quiet. You're about to call you, bro. Oh yeah, some random dude from Rockville.
No,
that's kind of illegal.
You know each other for.
That's kind of illegal, right?
We've been like childhood
It's
friends.
kind of illegal.
You know, we've been.
How you been childhood friends? You're 10 years old.
I just don't. I'm in a group chat on Instagram. And these dudes was like, be in a relationship with a 13-year-old. It's crazy. I'm like,
Okay, all right. Leave the group chat. Report it to the
and he's like,
FBI.
I'm 15. I said, no. I'm in this group chat. It's okay, there's really done with that one. Some dude started to flirt with her. He's like 17.
Oh,
Dude,
nah, man. Nah, bro.
dude, just like,
No. Report the group chat right now. Report both of those group chats.
she just said, I was like dying because this part wasn't making any sense.
If past Delta mats are already graded, you can still finish it.
Not if you have current assignments to do.
You like,
I will not open up past assignments if you're not done.
Hey, what those?
Picture what?
It's for my edit class.
Like, take you to it later.
Because the service that I wrote, that's why I never.
Whoa.
Yeah, you always see your phone 5 minutes early, so.
So I.
Wait till you grab your phone later.
Yeah, in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Huh?
I don't see nothing.
On the agenda for today? Oh, wait, hold on.
Go right ahead now.
Sorry. Go ahead and refresh. It should be there.
Go ahead now. The whole world want that.
Hey, yo, for prom next year though, I'm gonna be all black. All black. I have a black
No.
shirt,
No.
black tuxedo,
No.
black, what's it called? Black tie. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm going all black.
She did? What?
Well, you just like that girl.
Purple and yellow.
Wait, you said it's for tomorrow?
No, do the Joaquin thing.
I ain't trying to
It's
be
under
the same
tomorrow's
Joker.
date, but I just opened it to open today. I just changed it to open today.
See, but would they allow somebody to dress up as
Oh, did you see Margo's?
Mungo's fit was fire, I'm sorry.
Dude, I would be so mad if
Nah, man, Mungo's fit was fire.
Me, next year I'm gonna like.
Yeah,
Tactical gear. What? You're gonna roll up looking like a noose? Like the SWAT team?
I'm gonna roll up in a master chief costume.
I don't think that's allowed. Is it?
Is she like?
Is it?
Can you wear whatever you want?
No. You gotta-
There is a dress code, but
What's the dress code?
it's not like,
If I were just like, go to a bar, I'm ready.
It's like, look.
yeah, I would be bad.
It's not like you can figure it out.
I mean, James Smith wore a freaking white Batman.
He did, I remember that. That was funny. Yo, did you hear they're trying, there's rumors of him being Miles Morales?
That's not true.
That shouldn't, I hope it's freaking not true. I hope they don't freaking hack it.
That's not, especially with the controversy going around.
What controversy? Jaden Smith?
Who's James?
Oh, you talk, see, but that's not his fault, though.
Okay, you think that we get cares about that? They're related.
So what?
They're related.
Man, see, that's some bullcrap,
No,
though.
I remember people were asking.
Why does he get punished for what?
I still
It's really bad, man.
because he looks so
Honestly, no one
nice.
cares about the slap anymore. It's been like a month, right?
You know, most of the movies Will Smith was supposed to be got canceled, right? No, all 100. I said,
Oh, well, he's still million.
I said, post this one. I said, so Will Smith.
He's not fucking
I ain't gonna lie, that's not that.
Yeah,
I got my drink of water.
You're gonna be burning up at practice. You know it's gonna be like 84 degrees at practice, right?
84 degrees. That's nothing.
That's nothing. You sure about that?
Oh, yeah, that's different.
Yeah, so what? What about Wednesday?
We got competition, but I know it's just like,
It's right here.
yeah, it's just us against each other.
Where you
Well, I
at?
can run it Wednesday. Yeah, no, we got no Wednesday.
Yeah, we got Northwestern. Man. What? It's Northwestern. It's Northwestern.
It's here.
It's on the schedule.
Senior.
I need. Huh?
Senior next.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
It's gonna be.
I'm confused.
Bro, but we have.
Yeah, but we have a meet at Northwestern Monday.
You got a lifeguard?
No.
What does that do? It basically means us. Yeah.
It's here against Northwestern. It literally says that. Look. Remember that Wednesday, 427 is a rescheduled Northwestern High School.
That's what it is.
You know what? Also, sorry.
No way. That's why it's-
I can't wait one day. We're gonna destroy them. Cause I'm throwing them.
How was they running? It was the.
We got second place, they got third. They suck.
Would be South
I think they got a good, like, long distance dude, but that's about it.
Here's the thing about South Florida. We only lost by 2 points against them. The girls now.
Nah.
Girls like.
Yeah, the girls like the four. Hey, no.
Girls weren't.
Here's the thing though about that 2 points. I feel like we lost it because some of the relays that we were doing, them handouts were not good. So we should have won. Yeah, I know, bro. We should have won. Like, the main problem was, yeah, I don't know if you saw this, but the main problem was people were slowing down to hand off the baton. Yo, tell Kaden about that last year. Yo, tell Kaden.
Kidding. Come here.
Yo, tell. Tell Kaden about that last year. Not the boys relay. No.
I love that
You
you're
remember? Yo, that one was crazy. I know, bro. Yo, hey, you should have been there, bro. So there was like, bro, we all saw like the runners running right. What was it?
It was the.
Bro, it was like, was it close? It was kind of close. And then I got it. Every time we won the whole week. Everyone is celebrating like we won. Everyone.
Oh.
No, I yeah, why? I care about no dang turtle.
I don't care about turtles. I don't care about anything else. Don't you have a girl?
No.
Y'all be good now. See you guys tomorrow.
I have so many questions. But I'm not gonna read them. See, I don't wanna know anymore. Sure.
Yeah. Pretty hot.
Black Lives Matter now? Or is it just hot?
Pretty hot.
Nah, I don't really care about black people. Their lives don't matter. Oh, their life doesn't matter. had someone eat few stuff. Where's left on my house? I like sitting back there better. It's small. Problems with. Y'all played my boy Chris's song. You know that?
Yeah.
He made a song with one day just for mom. I told him to make a pop song. He was ripped out, so he had the hat on. That's hot. Maybe that one glaze cinnamon girl with one. Somebody cinnamon glaze gross. First try. Or try one of the cinnamon toast crunch ones. Yeah, we got some cinnamon toast crunch. Nah, I got that one glaze one. What was
I don't even think Alyssa is here.
Oh yeah, probably not. She might.
I think she's here today.
Huh?
I think she's supposed to be here today. I think she's always supposed to be.
No, but they got to the qualifiers, I think, or quarterfinals, something like that.
We'll find out. Won't wait.
It's actually really good.
Good.
What is like cereal though?
Disgusting.
I mean, yeah, but everything is actually.
I don't think she's here. Should have been here by now. It's a wasp. No, I'm kidding. It's probably a bee. That's a bee?
I mean, I'm sorry, it's a lot.
You know what happened after prom?
Bro, I got,
No, did you tell him about the toilet thing?
the lab.
I'm not talking about that.
Tell me.
It's not that good.
No, tell me. Send a message. You got my
It's
number?
inappropriate.
I wanna know what happened.
Don't tell.
Bro, I wanna know what happened. I had to leave, bro. I had to go to a party.
No, it's not.
Dude. Anyway, I got this. Next day. No.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I guess Alyssa's not here. I'll get that done. Watch her walk in.
She's not here.
Alright, so let's go over your mock exam. And then with whatever time left, we'll do some more review.
Yeah.
We go play soccer one day.
Huh?
We play soccer.
No. Alright, Henry, come here. I need you back though. I don't think any of y'all put your names on the other ones. So Rocco, you might not get the one that, or I'll set these out and you guys can figure out which one was yours. You need your multiple choice packet. Rocco.
Yeah, I was just going to this
Robbie,
Andrew.
Right here? Acne treatment.
One of these is y'all. Look for your handwriting. Emily, Miriam.
I didn't serve my answers.
Oh, it is mine.
Oh, shoot.
All right, I would like to go 5 questions at a time, and let me know when you guys have questions on why you don't understand the answers. What?
Because they're all the wrong.
Wait,
Everything with the thing that's pink is wrong.
nice.
Everything is wrong.
At least I got a 4.
Yeah.
All right. I'm about to go over the answer.
Alright, what you
So your test recorded on the top right, if you're looking at your schedule on this way, the part 1 is your multiple choice, your part 2 is your free response added together, and then the number that is circled to your right is your AP score based off the rubric that they had.
So you got 50 points, so that's a 4.
For this test, yes, but not, that's not the same scale for every test.
No. I have
All right. Number 1 is D. Number 2 is E. Number 3 is D. Number 4 is D. Number 5 is E. Questions on 1 through 5. Number 2.
I know, 2. You said number 2 is D, right? Or E?
Okay. So remember, correlation is going to be your R. So it tells you how strongly of a direction they have. If every object is going to have 0.75 kilograms less than its actual mass, then anything that you plot is going to be in a straight line. Exactly in a straight line. So it's going to equal 1. So
Oh crap, this is still recording. Whoops.